Member for Saanich North and Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Southern Gulf Islands, Salt Spring Island, and Juan de Fuca communities are rural. But because they are electoral areas within the Capital Regional District, they're deemed urban. The urban designation limits these communities from applying for important grants for rural communities outside the CRD. For years, electoral area directors Dave Howe, Gary Holman, and Mike Hicks have advocated for change. They could only be deemed rural, though, they were told, if they were included within the Island Coastal Economic Trust, or ICT. There has been an enormous amount of advocacy for change that should have been done long ago. The province has consulted with ICT for more than 3.5 years. Wouldn't you know it? On Sunday, September the 20th, on the eve of the snap election call, the BC NDP issued Order in Council 533 to pass a designation change for the ICT. However, the NDP made only the change to the Premier's riding. Juan de Fuca was added while the Gulf Islands were left out. My question through you, Honourable Speaker, is to the Minister of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation. Has the Minister issued the second half of that pre-election order to change the urban designation of the Gulf Island communities in my riding?
Minister of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation.
Yeah, thank you, Minister, and I want to thank the member for the question. My first question in the legislature, I appreciate him asking, and I also appreciate his letter that came to me I think 30 minutes after I was sworn in as the minister for this file. And so what I can commit to the member is that I'm happy to continue this conversation with him after this chamber rises today. It's certainly something that we're reviewing right now. I've asked staff to get me a full briefing on that, and it's scheduled for next week. Thank you.
Member for Saanich North and Islands.
So this is, I appreciate the invitation to have another conversation. The reality is, for the Southern Gulf Island communities and for Salt Spring Island, that they have been conversing about this with this government. I've been conversing with this government, with successive ministers in that ministry for the last 3.5 years. The advocacy has been going on, Mr. Speaker, for more than 7 years. The idea that these communities in the Southern Gulf Islands are anything but rural, and I know many members across the way know very well how rural these communities are, to think that we would have to be continuing a conversation about whether or not these communities are rural is absurd. The reality is that without this designation change, these communities do not get access to grants that they rightly deserve. For example, for COVID recovery, these communities are tourism-based communities that have been hit so hard by COVID, they are in and having an existential crisis right now, this moment. So we can continue to converse about this, or we can just do the order that needs to be done that was done easily. In fact, what's really crazy about this, Mr. Speaker, is that there was an act. There were words on paper. All they did was exclude the communities from my riding. This is excluding them from being able to apply for broadband access, which is going to help diversify their economy. This is likely going to exclude them from applying for money that this government announced earlier this week for mental health and addictions treatment. We're done having a conversation in the Southern Gulf Islands, Mr. Speaker. We need action. My preference is that the minister put through the order to complement the Premier's advantage that his community's got. My question is to the minister, when is he going to do it?
Minister.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, and again, thank you to the member. And as I said, I'm happy to have our first conversation, not a continued conversation. And what I would say to the member, and he raises concerns around tourism, and I know that many people in the tourism industry have been greatly impacted by the challenges of the pandemic. And you know, we have made $19.4 million available for tourism-dependent communities. I'm sure we can talk to the member also about some of his communities, how they can have access to that funding. But again, to the issue that he raises, as I committed to him in the previous question, I'm certainly happy to meet with him. I look forward to my briefing with my new deputy minister as well, and we'll get back to him shortly.